Have you ever found yourself in a moment when you honestly don't know what to do next in your dementia caregiving journey? Hey, Christian Care Companion. Welcome back to Dementia Caregivers Support for Christians. This podcast is for Christian dementia caregivers who do not know what to do. People hear that and say, that's exactly my mom, my sister, my friend. And the answer is always the same. Tell her to come sit down with me and we'll figure out what to do. That is what dementia care decision advising is. And that is what we do here. Each episode takes one real situation Christian caregivers face and brings clarity to where that decision really lives. So you can move forward faithfully, knowing what to do in your own situation. And if you find yourself listening and thinking, this is exactly what I'm dealing with, that usually is the moment to schedule your DigniCare Solution session. That is where we sit down together and sort out what to do next. Now, let me tell you about a moment where most caregivers don't know what to do. Well, I want you to think it's not because you don't love them, and it's also not because you're being impatient, and it is not because you don't know how to communicate. I want you to picture you're sitting in the doctor's office. The doctor comes in and starts asking a whole list of questions. Your person is answering those questions very confidently. And you know that what they are saying is not accurate. They are denying the fact that they have fallen. The doctor asks them, "How are you sleeping?" And they say, "Oh, I'm sleeping fine." But they're up at 2 a.m. every single day. The doctor asks them questions about their memory, and they minimize their confusion. During this conversation, they are sometimes blaming you. And during that period of time in the doctor's office, you feel your stomach drop to the floor because you don't know what to do or to say to fix this. You're not thinking about communication. You're thinking about honoring. You're thinking about honoring your father and your mother, or speaking the truth in love. And at that moment, sitting in the doctor's office, those feelings oftentimes are colliding. How do you speak the truth in love and honor the person that you are caring for in that specific time and place without making things worse? This episode today is about what actually happens in that moment and where that decision actually lives. Ephesians 4 verse 15 says to us we are to speak the truth in love. And Exodus 20 verse 12 says, honor your father and your mother. Now, I know that some of you listening here are not caregiving your parents, but you're caregiving your spouse. But honor your father and mother has to do with the relationship, right? It's not just whether or not it is your parent. It's honoring somebody that you love. So in dementia caregiving, sometimes these two things, speaking the truth in love and honoring your mother and father or honoring the person that you love, can feel like they are actually pulling against each other at the same time. So what is the problem that we think it is? What do we think this problem really is? We believe that I don't know what to say in that moment. Or maybe we think, I don't know when is the right time to interrupt and say something different or correct the person in that specific situation. We think things like, I don't want to embarrass them, or I need to find better words, or maybe I just need to be a little more tactful. I know for me, oftentimes people would always say that I was too direct, right? And you end up leaving that doctor's office believing that you handled it wrong, that you handled it badly, and you replay it in your mind over and over and over again, believing that you just didn't have the skills at that time to actually communicate with the doctor, that the problem that you're dealing with at that moment in time in the doctor's office is because of communication. But is that really what is happening here? Because it really is not a communication problem. It is a responsibility problem. You and I are sitting in that doctor's office holding two biblical responsibilities at the same time. We have the responsibility of preserving somebody we love, their dignity, because we are created in God's image, and because of that, we have dignity. And that's one of the foundational differences between a biblical worldview of dementia and the world's worldview of dementia. The world, in essence, tells you over and over and over again that the person's not the same anymore, that the person has changed, that inherently they're not the same person. And because the world believes that our value comes from the fact that we can think, what that ends up meaning is that the person is losing their dignity because they cannot think, right? But we're trying to preserve in that moment in the doctor's office, we're trying to preserve the person we love, their dignity, their autonomy. And the other side of that coin is that we're also trying to make sure that the doctor understands what is really happening, because the doctor needs to understand if my mom is falling, or if they're up at 2 a.m., or if they're not eating or drinking, or if they're not taking their medication as prescribed. We have to make sure that the doctor does understand what is actually happening in this person's life, in the person that we're helping. And at that moment in the doctor's office, when we don't know what to say, when we don't know what to do, we freeze. And that is because of the moral weight of the problem, not because you don't know what to say or because we feel awkward. And in the background, we are also thinking, if you have read your Bible, that part of what we are called as believers is to protect life and safety, right? And so you're trying to walk this tightrope between giving the doctor the information that the doctor truly needs in order to help you help this person that you love, as well as at the same time preserve the dignity and autonomy of the person. And at the same time, you're trying to keep everybody safe. But nobody has actually prepared you for that moment and what that moment actually looks like, or what the decision really should be, or what you should do. So it's not necessarily what we should or should not say. The decision that we need to make is, in that moment where I'm carrying that responsibility, where does truth and honor and dignity, where are they pulling against each other? Nobody has actually stopped to help you think through what to do about these tensions between biblical principles of telling the truth, speaking the truth in love, as well as honoring a person at the same time. How do you prioritize? Do you prioritize? How do you make the decision? Which is the right one to carry more weight? Nobody has helped you think about this or think it through before you actually walk into the doctor's office or into that room. So, in that moment in time, as you're sitting in the doctor's office and all of this is happening right in front of you, the doctor is asking questions and the person you love is telling them stuff that isn't true. That's when you are sitting there trying to figure out, what does biblical faithfulness look like right now in real time? And because we struggle to figure it all out right at that moment, we end up either complicating things and making it worse and speaking the truth, but not in love and kindness, because we want the doctor to know and understand what's truly happening. Or we do the alternative, which is not say anything. And then we leave feeling unsettled and unsure because the doctor doesn't have the information the doctor needs in order to make your life a little easier at home. And that is why you leave the doctor's office unsettled, because the decision isn't about what I should say. The decision is, how do I carry the responsibility in that moment of telling the truth in love and honoring the same person when they're feeling like they are in contradiction to one another. James 1 verse 5 says that we are to ask for wisdom, and right there and then in that doctor's office, you may be wishing you knew what the wise thing to do is. I know for me, I have certainly been there. And then you get in the car, or you wake up at 2 a.m. in the middle of the night, and the thoughts are racing through your head, saying things like, I should have done this. I shouldn't have done that. Before the next doctor's appointment, you worry about how are you going to navigate this exact same situation again, because you know every single time you go to the doctor that this is going to continue to happen. The person that you love, you're trying to preserve their dignity. You're trying to give them love and honor. You're trying to tell the truth in love. But how do you do that, and how do you do it well? Because you've never named the real decision of, how do I actually carry this responsibility of ensuring that I make sure that this person's dignity is taken care of, but at the same time also make sure that the doctor actually knows what is going on. Because we are in that moment in the doctor's office doing what I do exceptionally well, which is fly by the seat of my pants, right? I know for sure I have definitely been there, and I have definitely done this frequently. So, what does change when you actually decide and name the decision ahead of time that you want to ensure that you have preserved the person you love's dignity, but also ensure that the doctor understands what's actually happening. There is a way for you to be able to walk into these doctor's appointments already knowing what to do in a God-honoring and God-fearing and God-glorifying manner. It's not a question of needing better words to speak. It is a question of knowing how to navigate this specific situation before it happens. Psalm 25, verse 4 through 5 says, "Show me your ways, Lord." So, this particular situation of not knowing how to navigate or handle a doctor's appointment with your loved one because they're saying things that are not true at the same time as when you are trying to still give them the honor and the ability to maintain their autonomy as long as possible. This is one of the most common situations that caregivers talk to me about in a DigniCare solution session. Because these moments, we should not be deciding what happens right then and there in real time. We should know exactly what we need to do before we get there. And there are things that you can do before you get there. Colossians 3, verse 17 says that we want to be able to handle things in a way that you can be able to stand before the Lord with peace about how you show up in that doctor's office. Now, if this particular situation sounds like you or sounds familiar to something that you are experiencing right now, I don't want you to wait until your next doctor's appointment to try to figure this out. I want you to consider scheduling your DigniCare solution session, and we'll sit down together and we'll figure out what you need to do before you're back in that doctor's office with the person that you love. That is exactly what these DigniCare solution sessions are for, is to help you in real time solve real, practical dementia decision-making situations so that you know what it is that you need to do next. The link for a DigniCare solution session is in the show notes, or go to thinkdifferentdementia.com, and I want you to click on the link that says DigniCare solution session. And as I end all of my episodes, may the Lord bless you and keep you, and I will see you in our next episode.